Dragon lords and ladies, this week's tutorial is on how to make dragon wing ear cuffs. If you haven't seen my Skyrim inspired dragon ear cuff, check it out right here. And also make sure that you check out this video, the beginning part of course, on how to measure your ear, because you don't want this project to be too big and then fall off. So in this video I'm going to show you guys 2 different ways to make wings. Now I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you have the right measure for your ear. So make sure you check out my Skyrim video.
So let's do it.
Here's what you'll need for this project. An X-Acto, a popsicle stick, or a flat stick like this one, and 2 complementary colors for the wings. Since I'm doing 2 separate projects, I have 2 separate complementary colors, but really the choice is up to you. An extra piece of wax paper so that you can do your project directly onto it and then shove it in the oven. Optional materials, glitter and glaze. Now for this project, you're going to have to know the size of your ear. And if you haven't done the Skyrim dragon that I've done yet, check it out right here. I explain how to measure your ear and how to make this metal wire. You don't have to make it, but if you do make it, you definitely know the size of your ear. Otherwise, you can just try to wing it. Now the first thing you're going to do is take your extra piece of wax paper and put it on your work surface. Now take your main color and roll it out into a snake. Now what you want it to do is go around your actual ear so that when you curve it like the letter C, it actually goes around your ear. Now make sure also that you know if you want it to go on your left ear or right ear, because that'll depend which side you're going to place the wing, this way or that way. Now put this aside. Now we're going to work on the wing. Dragon Anatomy 101. This part of the wing is called the lub, and the lower part is called the leech. So now you know what I'm going to refer to. Now for the top part, you're going to roll out another thin piece of green clay. Make sure that it ends with a tip. And then you're going to shape it in a kind of triangle way. Now make sure that the end is not too pointy unless you want it to be, like so. Now for the leech, take your secondary color and flatten it out as thin as you can. This thickness should do. Now take your secondary color and place it under the lub. Now push down so that they stick to each other, like so. Now take your X-Acto and cut out the top part of your yellow. Now you're going to make 3 waves in the wings. You can make as many as you'd like, but I'm making 3. There you go. Now take your green clay again, make 2 thin snakes out of it, and they're going to meet in the middle and then branch out down to each of the tips of the waves. Now take your fingers or your popsicle stick and smooth out this part so that it looks like it's one piece with the lub. Voila! Now take your initial letter C snake and your wing and your cutter. Now you're going to cut your wing at the tip here, 45-degree angle, like this. And you're going to place it down here. Don't put it too close to the tip, otherwise it's actually going to bother the top of your ear. So place it just a little lower than the curve, like so. And now push down and then smooth it out so that it becomes one piece. Ta-da! Now you're going to take this as it is on your extra sheet of wax paper and put it in the oven at 275 degrees for 15 minutes. Your oven should at least have been preheated for the past 10 minutes. Otherwise it's going to break. Now the base for the other wing is pretty much the same thing. So choose your primary lub color, make your C out of it, and then we're going to put this aside. Now take your black again and make 1 long straight piece. Once you have this long straight piece, slightly curve it towards the outside. Very slight. Now take your leech color or your secondary color and flatten it out as thin as you can, like so. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to take your purple and place it under the black and then flatten it down and just cut the outer edge. Don't cut the lower part yet. Now at the top tip, you're going to take your finger and pinch it so that it's much slimmer than the rest, like so. Now take your black clay again and make 4 long thin snakes out of it, and you're going to place them at uneven distances from one another. So the first distance is going to be slimmer, the second distance a little longer, and then the next one much larger. So just place them so that they're far enough from each other so that we can create the waves in between. Now that you have your 4 snakes, just place them so that you're sure that they're far enough from one another and not too close. You want to make sure that the shortest one is the one on top, the second one is the longest, the third one is more or less the same length, and then the fourth one is a little shorter than the third one. Now once you have this here, push them down so that they stick on the initial piece and then smooth it out so that it looks like it's one part of the whole thing. There you go. Now take your X-Acto and cut off all the way around the first tip up here and the first stub. Now take your blade again and create the first wave between the first and second snake. If you're bold enough, take your fingers and tear the clay instead of cutting it with a straight blade. And now you're going to do that in between each snake. Leave the bottom for the end. Now in order to create the rips and tears effect, you're going to take your X-Acto and start cutting random triangles in each section and make sure that they're not even. Some should be longer, some should be shorter. Now if you want to create a tear in the actual wing itself, take your rounded tool, push a hole inside, and then start moving it around so that it looks like a rip right in the middle. There you go. Now if you want to give it a little more texture, feel free to take your popsicle stick or your rounded stick and make some ridges across all the parts. Ta-da! Now what you're going to do is the same thing like you did for the other wing. Put your C right at the edge, put your wing right after the curve of your C, and then smooth it in with your fingers. There you go. Now you're going to bake this for about 15 minutes at 275 degrees. It's really important that you make sure that your oven has been preheated. If it hasn't been preheated, this will break. And then once it's out of the oven, you're going to put it in a bowl of water with ice. Anytime you lift it, it has to be with the wax paper. Even when you're taking it out of the oven, you're going to take it with the wax paper and then submerge it in the bowl of cold water. So as soon as your piece goes into the oven, take a bowl, put some ice in it, and once your piece comes out, you're going to slip it right in there in the icy cold water. What this is called is quenching. And it's pretty much the same process that metal forgers do. It'll make your piece much stronger. Now once your piece is out of the oven, just slip it into the cold water with the wax paper there. Don't try to peel it off. Let it sit there for about 5 to 7 minutes. So here they are all baked. Now for this ear here, it's definitely for someone who has a bigger ear than me. What makes the difference is really the width of this loop here. The wider it is, the more it's for someone who has bigger ears. Now the final optional part is to actually take your glaze and put some glitter in there. And when you glaze the colored part, then it's going to sparkle. All done! Remember, if you haven't subscribed, do so. And don't forget to add me on Facebook, Twitter, DeviantArt, and Instagram. For those of you who've added me, you know that you got a preview of this week's tutorial already. If you haven't added me, you've been living in the dark. In the dark. And as always, if you have suggestions for future geeky tutorials, leave them in the comments section below, you dorks. Until then, stay warm.